It's Friday, which means the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship starts now. Welcome inside Studio B in our new daily show, Tourney Watch. I'm Rachel Berry, and throughout the tournament, we'll be here every day with the latest scores, highlights, news, and social media fun from this year's tournament. First round action starts today in Louisville with the #1 seed in the Albany region, the Louisville Cardinals. They tip against Robert Morris at 12 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. To get us ready for Friday's slate of games, Jack Kaiser and Jaron Matheny take us through what's on tap.
Rachel, thanks. The madness is about to begin. No better time of the year. Bracket revealed on Monday, Jaron. We've got quite a field this year.
And it feels like every team has a chance to win this year. A lot different than other years. Uconn on that 2 line is a big storyline, but everybody has a chance as we start the tournament today.
Well, let's take a look at the bracket, starting with the Greensboro region. Baylor comes in as the #1 overall seed. Bears a 1 seed for the 6th time in program history. Iowa the 2 seed after winning the Big Ten tournament. Some interesting matchups in this region, Jaron, but the bottom line is these teams have to go through top-seeded Baylor to reach Tampa.
And 2 of the top players in the country are in this side of the bracket with Christine Anigwe and Megan Gustafson. Iowa's the real potential threat to Baylor in this region, as Gustafson led the NCAA in points this season with 28 per game. So the Hawkeyes and Bears in an Elite 8 matchup would be extremely fun.
The top seed in the Portland region is Mississippi State, finishing the year 30-2, and as the SEC champs. Bulldogs one of 7 SEC teams in the tournament. Oregon sets up as the 2 seed. Mississippi State sitting at the top, Jaron. The Bulldogs are determined to get back to the national championship.
And a potential Sweet 16 matchup with Miami is really interesting to me. Big wins this year for Miami over Louisville, Notre Dame, and Syracuse. They have lost 2 straight coming in to the tournament, but if they get past Florida Gulf Coast in that first round, you need to keep your eyes on the Hurricanes.
The defending national champion Notre Dame Fighting Irish are the 1 seed in the Chicago region, while Pac-12 champ Stanford on the opposite end of the bracket is the 2 seed. Jaron, who do you see potentially stopping Notre Dame on its path to repeat?
Well, it's definitely not a cakewalk this year for the Irish in the Chicago region. I love that potential matchup with Central Michigan in the 2nd round. Central, a team who went to the Sweet 16 last year, and they returned tons of talent this season. Those 2 teams will light up the scoreboard.
Our final quadrant, the Albany region. Powerhouses take the top 2 spots. Louisville is the 1 seed and Uconn a 2 seed. It was a remarkable run for the Huskies, but the streak is snapped. They are not a 1 seed for the first time since 2006.
And a sleeper pick in this region is Maryland. We know about the firepower with Uconn and Louisville, but watch out for Brenda Freese's squad in Maryland, a potential Sweet 16 clash with the Huskies.
A lot of great teams this year, but the 1 seeds are especially impressive. And Jaron, they get to host their first 2 round games, a huge advantage in the NCAA tournament.
And that's the sweet thing about the NCAA women's tournament is the first 4 seeds all get to host their first and second round matchups, and the first seeds always have a fun environment. We saw earlier this year in the KFC Yum Center, the largest crowd ever for a women's basketball game between Uconn and Louisville.
The women's basketball tournament is unique in that the top 4 seeds in each region host the first 2 rounds. It's a big incentive for performing well in the regular season. Waco, South Bend, Starkville, Louisville, wherever it is, these teams will have a big advantage playing on their home floors. We saw Notre Dame's region moments ago. The Irish ran away with the ACC championship against Louisville. They're playing as well as any team in the nation right now, winners of 9 straight and going for back-to-back titles.
Enrique Agumbawale is the player to watch for the Irish. 2 heroic shots in last year's Final Four. She's an offensive juggernaut. It's all about whether Jackie Young can get the ball in her hands at the right time.
Agumbawale with the shot from the corner to win the national championship for Notre Dame. Another team that's always dangerous this time of year is Uconn under Gino Auriemma. The Huskies, this year's AAC champs after topping UCF, but they aren't a 1 seed for the first time in 13 years. They won 4 straight national championships from 2013 to 2016. But recently it's been a different story. 2 consecutive Final Four losses in the most dramatic fashion possible.
And Gino Auriemma will have his team prepared for this year's tournament. He always does, but with Uconn being on that 2 seed line, it feels like they're the potential underdog in this situation. This team has also suffered some devastating losses over the past 2 seasons, Jack.
Wale last year topping Uconn, and then a couple of years ago it was Mississippi State with the dagger to send Uconn packing. The Huskies looking for some revenge this year.
The bracket is set and 64 teams all have the same goal, to reach Tampa in the Final Four just 3 weeks from now. Before we get to the 16 games today, Selection Monday is always full of anticipation and excitement as teams wait to hear their name called. Here are some of the best reactions from around the country on Monday.
Texas.
We going dancing, everybody! We going dancing! We going
As you can see, a lot of teams were very excited to hear their name called. Later today, number 15 seed Towson meets number 2 seed Uconn. Towson players and coach Diane Richardson are enjoying the moment. Someone who will see the Tigers dancing later today is ESPN's Adam Amin, who joins us from Storrs, Connecticut.
ESPN's Adam Amin joins us, play-by-play broadcaster throughout the tournament and for the Final Four. Adam, really appreciate the time. Just about to get going with the big dance, but still preview time at this point. When the bracket was revealed on Monday, what was the biggest surprise to you?
I don't want to say Uconn being a 2 was the biggest surprise, but it's certainly one of the biggest because they had been sitting in the top 3 or 4 for a good chunk of the latter half of the season, even after the loss to Louisville in February. Despite getting down to 5th in the country, they were able to work themselves up. They seem to be projecting as a 1 seed, and our bracketologist at ESPN, Charlie Creamer, did a really great job this year. He felt that Uconn hadn't really done anything to lower themselves on the seed line, but I think that also speaks to what the rest of the country is doing. I don't know if it's as a big of a surprise individually as anything else, but it does feel like as a whole this season has been a pleasant surprise in the fact that we have a lot more parity. We have a little bit more, I think, intrigue with the national championship tournament, just because of the fact that there may not be a solid 4 teams that we all think are going to be there at the end of it. Last year we had all 4 1 seeds. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case this year. So I think as a whole the bracket was a little bit of a surprise based on what we've seen over the course of the season. But Uconn being a 2 is probably up or near the top of the list in terms of some interesting things to see in the bracket.
You've got Uconn and Towson tonight. 2 straight losses in the Final Four for Uconn, a 2 seed this year, as you mentioned. What's been different about the Huskies the last few years?
I think when you lose as much talent as they've lost over the course of the last couple of seasons, when you're losing players like a Breanna Stewart, like a Mariah Jefferson, like a Morgan Tuck. You're talking about players that have kind of placed themselves in the annals of UConn history. Not to say that Nafisa Collier, Katie Lou Samuelson haven't done great things in their careers. They're going to be in the record books for a long time coming. But I just feel like with the constant necessity to reload and try to keep building up and keep this number one train rolling for a long period of time, eventually you're going to have some, I don't even want to call it slips. I don't think it's anything UConn has done or hasn't done. I just think it speaks to what the rest of the country is doing. So I don't want to take anything away from UConn. I don't think they're as deep this year as they have been in years past. I don't think that's anything new. I think they're a little bit younger than they have been in years past. Certainly they have a few battle-tested veterans, but this is a younger lineup. Half the rotation is underclassmen right now. So that's not necessarily something we're used to seeing with UConn. So you can understand that, oh, wow, 2 regular season losses. I know that's a big deal in Storrs, Connecticut, but there are some flaws to this team that maybe we haven't seen in years past, and I think it starts with depth.
Who's a team outside of the top 2 seed lines that you could maybe see making a run to Tampa Bay?
You know, this is an Oregon State team that I've been really impressed with this year. I think their defense, and not only their defense, but the way that they adjust defensively from opponent to opponent has been really impressive. That's what Scott Rueck is known for, the positioning, the teaching of positioning for his defense. You don't have to be the biggest. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the strongest. You have to be the smartest. And he consistently develops really high IQ basketball talent, especially at the defensive end of the floor. And defense travels. You know, this is a reason that Oregon State made the Final Four a few years back. I feel like this is an Oregon State team that could surprise some people. They're in the Albany region. Could they knock out a Uconn? Certainly they're capable of it. We saw them beat an Oregon team earlier this season when a lot of people thought, all right, well, this is a really good Oregon State team. Let's see how good they really are. They've proven themselves a lot over the course of this year, and I think they're a dangerous team outside the top 2 seeds.
Adam Amin on the call for Rutgers and Buffalo, followed by UConn and Towson tonight. Adam, again, really appreciate the time and have some fun tonight.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.
Someone who is also very excited for the upcoming tournament in the NCAA Division I's women's basketball chair, Rhonda Lundeen Bennett. Tourney Watch producer Adrian Jarning visited with her Monday about the making of this year's bracket.
Hello, my name is Adrian Jarning alongside Rhonda Lundeen Bennett, who is the NCAA Division I women's basketball chair. Rhonda, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Adrian. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on. And it has been a very long week for you guys. You've been in here every single day talking the nitty-gritty of women's basketball, and I just have to ask, what is that atmosphere like in the room?
Well, it's a great atmosphere that you have 10 people as well as a lot of staff who really care about the game of women's basketball and have been working together all year to get the right teams into the NCAA tournament, to get them seeded correctly, and to get them sent into the right place in the bracket. It's just been a really intense but great week, and we're really excited about our bracket.
With over thousands of games to watch throughout the entire season, how does a 10-person committee keep up with everything and kind of, you know, make sure that you go throughout the season that you have every single data point possible?
Well, we do have daily access to the RPI. We have countless conference calls, both with each other as well as all the different conferences. We participated in regional advisory committee calls with the coaches. We also meet in person several times, and our committee watches over 1,200 games, paying attention to every conference, making sure that we have eyes on every team that would be considered into our field.
What was the hardest part about selecting the field?
I think the hardest part is just getting teams right, getting the right teams into the field. Getting into the NCAA tournament is often the highlight for a student athlete in her career, and we want to make sure that we are getting it right for the good of the game. So I feel that that is always the hardest thing that we do. And
the last thing, this has been your 5th year part of the women's basketball committee, your 2nd year as the chair. What has that experience been like, and what advice would you give to the incoming chair?
Well, my experience on the Women's Basketball Committee has been one of the great honors of my professional career. It's been a huge opportunity for me to give back to the game that has given me so much. You know, I've been involved in women's basketball for a lot of my career, and it's been just a tremendous honor to be part of this committee and to get a chance to work with such amazing professionals as the Men and Women Honor Committee, as well as the men and women at the NCAA. So I leave my committee service just feeling fantastic about it and really looking forward to seeing what happens in the future for women's basketball.
Rhonda and the entire committee did a great job this year setting up the field of 64. All right, Jaron, we got 32 games in the next 2 days, 16 in store for today. You ready to go?
Absolutely, Jack. This is the most wonderful time of the year. Let's get into it.
All right, let's do it, buddy. Take a look at the schedule for today. Louisville kicks things off against Robert Morris on ESPN2 at noon. You can find all the other games on ESPN3. Jaron, an interesting matchup, 4-13 matchup between South Carolina and Belmont.
Yeah, Darby Maggard for the Bruins is the first player in NCAA history to reach 400 made threes and 650 assists in a career. Belmont also shoots it very well from the outside.
Here are the other 8 games today. Mississippi State, the other 1 seed in action at 9 p.m. But Jaron, you have your eyes set on Rutgers and Buffalo.
And it's because the Bulls went to the Sweet 16 last year as a 12 seed, and they have the best scoring guard statistically in the country in Sierra Dillard. Dillard was also the Mid-American Conference Tournament MVP.
Our 4 players to watch amongst today's game. What a lineup. All of them dropping double-doubles in their conference championship games, including a 45-point performance from Megan Gustafson. She called it the best game of her life, Jaron, and hopes to replicate throughout the tournament.
And what a star-studded cast we have on the first day of the NCAA Women's Tournament. All 4 of these players named to the ESPNW First Team All-American list. Incredible group.
All right, we are just about set to go, guys. What are you most excited for in the first round?
I'm hoping for an upset in the first round, honestly, Jack. I think that's what March Madness is all about, giving those mid-majors an opportunity to play against the big dogs. A first-round upset is what I'm looking forward to.
Definitely looking forward to that, and just kicking this off this afternoon. For sure. That's a wrap for Tourney Watch today. From all of us at the NCAA and our Ball State Sports Link production crew, thanks for watching. And remember, follow the entire tournament using #NCAAW.